Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. This is NFA Live. We do this every Friday, or every Thursday, I should say. I'm already messing it up. We have Jessica from Coin Bureau. How's it going, Jessica?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good as always. And then Rob
Hey.
from Digital Asset News.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
So Jessica, I think you've been on this channel once before. Is that right? I know you've done NFA Live.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it was on my channel or Rob's channel.
I think I've hijacked both of your channels at
Okay.
certain points since I joined Coin Bureau about 6 months ago. But it's always good to touch base. Guy sends his regards, but I think he's off celebrating the market moves and a late Valentine's Day with Mrs. Guy. So I get to join you all for this Green Market Thursday.
Perfect timing.
A lot of positive comments. The last time you were on, I think you provided a lot of great insight into the Cryptoverse, and so we are happy to have you back. We're going to be going through a lot of different questions today. We'll go through the fact that Bitcoin has now taken out the highs from the spot ETF launch. We'll talk about a little bit about the AI narrative and how that might spill over into crypto. The halving is coming up relatively soon, and I also want to talk a little bit about the it doesn't seem like it's generating as much hype as the Bitcoin ETF, but there is some chatter about the ETH ETF, which could be coming up here in a few months. And we'll talk about some everyone's favorite topic, right? All the new projects that you guys are getting into. So let's go ahead and jump in. Bitcoin took out the recent highs, right, from the spot ETF launch, and do you think I'm curious, like, do you think that's going to give people more confidence to sort of jump into that? Because I know a lot of people thought like it might be a sell the news event, and it was in the short term, right? Like we dropped 20%, but still a fairly typical correction that Bitcoin has had when you look at all prior corrections from 2023. So do you think that this has given investors more confidence in sort of the launch of these spot ETFs? And also, I'm curious, and Jessica, we'll start with you first. I'm curious if you think that some of the institutions that did not list the ETFs, I think was Vanguard one of them. I can't remember, but there were some institutions that decided not to list the ETF. I'm wondering, do you think that given the success of this launch, maybe they'll be compelled to list it in the future so as to not lose clients? What are your thoughts?
Not lose out on a slice of the pie, a piece of the pie. I think I was really surprised on just the appetite that we have seen this week alone. So just for context as well, so we had in the last 4 weeks, we had a huge amount of inflows coming in, $42,000 BTC of inflows in the first 20 days of trading. The last 4 days, 43,000 BTC of inflows. So the appetite has been huge. I think it was Anthony Pompliano was speaking on CNBC this week, and he was saying there's 12.5x more demand for Bitcoin than what's being produced on a daily basis. And if we look at what the ETF issuers were talking about and the discussion around opening this up to institutions and the appetite, we had a huge surge of even price wars among the BTC ETF issuers that we had seen, so BlackRock, and everyone was really putting their cards onto the table. So it's a really interesting time that we have seen the first round of appetite coming through. We've seen now the demand coming through. BlackRock is the powerhouse leader, $5.4 billion in assets, 105,000 BTC that they've got. It's an absolute force to be reckoned with. And we did see that TradFi funds were looking to wait and analyze the appetite and risk before getting involved. So actually, Nick from Coin Bureau had put a post on the Coin Bureau Discord, which was highlighting a Bloomberg article that came out on the 12th of February. And this was to do with LPL Financial. And they have more than $1 trillion of assets and capital under management. And they, as you said, Ben, they wanted to wait and see how the appetite was, see if it would work in the market, really analyze the risk versus reward before they looked at allowing the ETFs and brokerage onto their platform. And this is a really good entry point. They have over 17,000 financial advisors working for them. So this is going to be another potential spill of a game changer of kind of retail adoption and retail brokerage getting into the spot Bitcoin ETF wrapper and Bitcoin entering the space. So I do think this is still a wait and see. I think this has restored a lot of confidence within the TradFi institutional space. It's going to be interesting to see how the next few months play out.
seems like such a risk for, some of the institutions to delay it, especially when oftentimes, it's the ones that are able to accumulate the most volume that end up going on to be the ones that actually stick around for the long haul. So we'll see if it's certainly a risky play by them. We'll see how that pays off in the end.
Yeah.
Rob, what do you have anything to add to that? I mean, what do you think about us taking out the recent highs and also some of these institutions not listing these ETFs, potentially getting left behind?
Yeah. Well, first, it was very well said, Jessica. That's why we love you on the show, because you always bring great insights and fantastic data points. So I appreciate that. That's for sure. But just to piggyback on what you said, and Ben, if you could, let me throw up my screen real quick. It'll be kind of like just a little embellishments of what Jess talked about. But as far as like inflows, yeah, same. We are.
You didn't share it yet.
Hold on. Actually, I'll just wing it then if I can't. That's why, because it disappeared.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you going to add that up?
I should be better at this, actually. Yeah.
All right.
So let's see. So yeah, just like what Jessica, what you're saying, we're still positive inflows, even though Grayscale's been dumping. We can take a look at that graphically. It looks like this. Grayscale's the big contributor of the negativity. But then also, I think there's something to be said for, this is from Crypto Zombie, and I didn't know this was actually happening, but it looks like people are getting out of the gold ETFs, and either they're getting out for whatever reason. I'm not going to say that they're going directly into the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but like someone said, they were in gold for decades. And they said, in the last month, Bitcoin the price appreciation has dwarfed it than what gold has done over 2 years. So I personally own precious metals as well, gold and silver. So I can understand the point of where they're coming from. But on the positive is also a little bit of negativity coming around the bend. I guess Genesis just got a court approval to sell 1.6 billion in crypto trust shares. So that's like Grayscale 2, essentially. But again, to what Jessica was talking about, even though Grayscale dumps a ton, because that's just what they have the cancer within them, what is FTX and their shares, 1.6 billion isn't too bad. It's just going to be a little bit of a price action. I think we can absorb that quite easily, but we'll see how it goes. And
Rob,
then, of course,
you can absorb that, right, with your own DCAs, right?
That's true. So it's but it's very difficult to do that on my credit cards because I have a high APR. But besides that, yeah, not too bad. But again, I think Pomp said it and Jess said it. There, as far as demand, there's 900 new Bitcoins being issued per day. And if we took a look at 900 Bitcoin, the price today, that's 47 million. And right now for the inflows every day, what do we got? We've got billions. Actually, yesterday, Valentine's Day, it was 339. So as far as like a million, so that's like what, a 7x, 8x, somewhere around there. So I'll take those numbers. I think we're in the right place at the right time, especially the people that have stuck around. So congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the recent new push has definitely improved sentiment, I think. We only have, let me skip to the next question. We'll come back. The halving is only a couple months from now, right? I mean, what, like a little over 60 days, maybe like around 60 days, 70 days, something like that. I don't know exactly.
I think it's like 57 roughly.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So it's speeding up. Yeah, I mean, it's always, it's sort of a function of all the it's not something that's set in stone. It obviously can change, but it's only a couple months away, maybe less than a couple months away, as Jessica said. Do you think this is going to increase or correspond to an increase in interest in the space? Because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like when I look at the social statistics compared to like now, compared to 2021, there's still not the same level of retail interest, right, as there was back then. If you just look at like viewership across channels, I mean, if you look at Coin Bureau, of course, is one of the best ones to maintaining those views. But I mean, a lot of channels have really come down in viewership. So I'm curious if you think the halving will have some impact into that, and because as I said, it's interesting that they haven't really returned yet. I mean, I guess we could also ask, do you think that price will continue higher, but I won't put you guys on the spot for that. I just more pointedly, do you think there will be more interest coming back into the cryptoverse over the next 2 months as we go into the halving, Rob?
Sure. Sounds good. Actually, I was waiting for Jess's answer because she's been Jessica, I think you've been here longer than us. I think that you've been in since like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there.
2015. So I've had 1 or 2 halvings under my belt, but you can take it away. I'll follow through.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, if you go to Google Trends and we can take a look at just the popularity of just Bitcoin itself, it's almost like you can overput the price of Bitcoin just like the M2 money supply. And if we take a look at it from the halving years, and this for Google Trends, it's not, so everybody knows, Google Trends is not the amount of unique searches per month. It's just interest over time. So it rates it 0 to 100. And like in the time frame from the last, or the halving 2016, we can see that it really doesn't do much until we actually have a halving. And then of course, as the price appreciates. So we can see that the halving did some good parts as far as interest, people searching for it, which would be retail, but it really didn't do much until we hit 2017, and then it went off the rails as we hit the all-time highs. Same thing for 2020. Looks like, I think it was in May 11, somewhere around there. So yeah, we peaked out for the interest, but when did it really go up? Of course, towards the end when we were seeing price appreciation and Elon Musk gets into it. And if you take a look at the last 10 years, this is interest over time. So I know people talk about, I talk about a lot. As far as like price or interest, but the interest, I think the smart ones understand that halving brings price appreciation. That's when people start to search. I think just like it has almost always been, people are interested in it, and you guys get the text messages. People who are watching this video, they get the questions like, should I get into Bitcoin now? Well, you should have actually done this about a year ago, but I guess the worst time is never. So I still say that halving has great price appreciation. Retail will come in as soon as it goes off the rails, and it's on MSNBC and CNBC and everywhere else constantly. But right now, I think we're front running a lot of people.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree. So just to kind of pop onto the back of that, I think what we have seen in the past few months with TradFi media is we have seen quite a lot of coverage of Bitcoin, just because the narrative of the big asset managers like BlackRock and the listings of the spot Bitcoin ETF has seen crypto in the news more than we would expect. Normally it was a little bit of a narrative pre-halving, and on the kind of date of the halving, if there was a huge FUD topic that would get crypto coverage, or a big price dip or gain, so price volatility, that was when you would see Bitcoin in CNBC or in kind of Bloomberg and the likes there. Therefore, so we are going to see some coverage beforehand, but just as Rob said, it's not going to be the kind of thing that will get the new retail investors. That will only come through after, typically it's 12 to 18 months after is when we really see the price gains on the back of that. There was quite a lot of live streams within the crypto industry last Bitcoin halving, but that was, as Rob mentioned, 12th of May. So it was everyone locked down at homes, not much else to talk about apart from the Bitcoin halving. There was no parties online, so you had to do the live streams to sync up and see what people are talking about and how things are going to move forward. But when it comes to retail interest, you're right. I don't think we are fully there yet when it comes to trading volumes from new investors, demand and interest. That's not going to be something that we see until the price starts to go up a little bit more and people start getting their ears spiked up. I like to have the electrician indicator. So I have an electrician in the UK who I actually can pay in crypto. He is full degen and has been in crypto since around 2017. But he will send me WhatsApp screenshots of his clients that will ask him about crypto. So this is my electrician indicator with the UK and the UK retail market and the appetite for crypto from newbies getting in the space. So this week we had one person ask about crypto, markets are up, but the rest of this month we didn't have anything come through, and also in January. So as things start to pick up, i.e. price, then the retail will follow suit.
I remember doing a live stream on the halving, and then like I was looking at a chart or something, and then I missed it. I felt like when it actually occurred, and we were like, "You missed it." but yeah, no, I do remember that. Like, I mean, everyone was locked down, and I mean, everyone was just online watching the crypto charts, and it was a
Yeah.
crazy time back then. I'm curious. I don't know if you guys how much you're following sort of what's going on over in traditional markets, but like in the AI space, you know, we've had NVIDIA, we've had Supermicro Computer. I mean, just looking at the charts for SMCI, like, I mean, it's absolutely insane how much it's gone up in such a short period of time. I think that, yeah, I mean, like some of these stocks are up like, you know, 200% or so in the last month. I mean, SMCI is up 170% in the last month. So, I mean, it certainly seems like there's been a lot of hype in the AI space. And I know you guys are a little bit more well versed in the altcoin market. And so I'm curious, like, do you guys think that the hype over in sort of the traditional markets in AI, could that spill over into the crypto space, and more specifically, perhaps the crypto space that has sort of an AI spin on it? Do you guys think that is it, or is it already happening? Jessica, what do you think?
I think it's already happening to a certain extent. So, first of all, you're absolutely right. We have seen AI stocks are trading almost as good as degen meme coins. It's been some pretty impressive price fluctuations and moves. But if we look back, there was Singularity.net, which is a AI ecosystem, decentralized AI marketplace by Benjamin Gertzel. And in the crypto boom of 2017, that ICO raised $36 million in 60 seconds. So it wasn't the largest ICO on record, but it was certainly the fastest raise. So there has always been a little bit of an appeal for an AI narrative as something that's quite catchy and jazzy. Obviously, with the surge of ChatGPT that came last year, AI was really a narrative, and NVIDIA people could really sink their teeth into. And the landscape now, if you look at coin market cap and you go on the metrics of AI and big data, it's a market cap of $29.8 billion as of today. So it's just, you know, it's a force to be reckoned with. And I do think the AI boom and like kind of price bubble will last a little bit longer over a time span, just because the developments within AI projects and platforms do take so long to come through. You've still got a few years for all the innovative AI companies to put things into fruition, and then a few more years for the average person to really get on board and adopt them. So the kind of the life cycle of those compared to a crypto narrative might be longer. So it's a little bit harder to determine. But one thing I would say is it's definitely more accessible for retail investors to get involved in AI tokens and tokens that have a sub AI narrative than something to do with like AI stocks. And NVIDIA and Microsoft, these are already companies that are worth trillions of dollars. So a smaller AI cap crypto definitely is something that you could look at it, and similar to when you look at a smaller cap token and go, oh, well, what if it goes to $1 a token? That's really appealing to you as an investor. We saw some pretty big all-time highs from the likes of Injective, which was the 26th of December, Nia, Render was the 27th of December, and then ICP after the launch obviously dipped in price, and then they had the 4th of January was their all-time high. So that was a kind of a smaller all-time high market top. But I do think moving on to this year, 2024, AI tokens are definitely going to have a longer narrative. And we actually covered Akash Network on the Coin Bureau Club a few weeks ago. So for anyone that's interested in that, they announced a partnership this week. So there was some interesting price movements there. But AI projects are definitely one that I am keeping an eye out on. And actually, I spoke to Arthur Hayes this week, and that'll be published on Coin Bureau's main channel on Saturday. And we referenced, I don't know if you guys remember the EOS ICO that raised $4 billion in 2017. You know, that was just like absolutely mind-blowing. That was kind of marketing genius in their regards. And I said to him, you know, are we going to see a 2024 EOS, an equivalent, and what would that look like? And he was saying that it would be, in his eyes, something that has AI in the buzzword, something that everyone says, you know what, this is going to change how we work, how everything operates. Everyone has to get involved. So he's also betting on the narrative as being something that people will throw money into.
Speaking of EOS, since 2018, EOS is down 99.4% against Bitcoin. It's insane how that stuff happens, because like what happens is like, yeah, like they raise money at like really hyped up times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to live up to the hype is I think what often happens. It's hard to live up to it. So hopefully the people that get in, you know, sort of early into these things can actually ride that wave. You don't want to be the person, you know, buying at the, you know, at the extreme top. But great. I think that was a great perspective. Thanks for that. And I think you're right. I mean, I think it will probably spill over into the crypto space at some point. Rob, what do you think? I mean, are you on the same page there?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just easy. Like Jess I remember when EOS came out and everybody was talking about it. Dan Larimer from BitShares, and he was like the mad genius. He was going to make things work perfectly. And then I think some of the people in the organization, if you guys do a Google search for the EOS $1 million bet, one of the guys actually bet his coworkers that EOS would be in the top 10 or top 5 or flip something. And he's like, I'll bet you $1 million. And of course it didn't happen. And of course he had to pay up, but he didn't pay everything. And it was in that time when, like, if you talked about selling any of your crypto, you were attacked. You were said, what are you doing? Why you have such paper hands? Why are you so weak? You should have diamond hands and you should hold forever. And it's a prime example of why, like, the same things happen over and over again. And the same thing's going to happen this time as well. So like EOS, I should say I can't say anybody else. I should have got rid of that nonsense a long time ago. And I didn't. And then I wrote it all the way up and I'm like, I'm a genius. And what do? You write it all the way back down. And it's like a thing that happens over and over and over again. So like, just like Jessica said, the .com era is a great example of, like, say, like AI. And then the .com era, you could do, and there was an article, it talked about how if you put .com next to your business name, as far as like the ticker or for the information, you were guaranteed almost 74% increase from the stock price itself. So the same thing is going on right now. If you look at here, I want to so this kind of reminds everybody as they go into this next bull run what I'm talking about. I want you to take a look at this chart and I want you to tell me if this is a good project. Because you're looking at right here, this is just not too long, October 24th, 2023, 0.00007. And then it just did this, and then did this. And now you're a fraction of a penny. I think you're up, I don't know how many percentage points that you're up. You're up massively, and it hasn't come down yet. You know what this is? This is called Corgi AI. It does absolutely nothing that I can figure out. And if you take a look, if you go over to CoinGecko and go in the categories and put AI, it's ranked number 152. What does it do? It's anybody's guess, but it's got AI next to it, so I got to get into it. So when we talk about these things, just remember that a lot of these projects are going to do great in the bull run. And hopefully you can understand that if you ride them up, make sure you take profits along the way, because when you ride down, you'll be like everybody else.
Maybe you should change your channel name to Digital AI News.
If I did, I would. I might catch up with you and maybe Coin Bureau, but who knows?
Yeah, you'd zoom past us.
I doubt that. That's a good one. Yeah, man, we'll see.
There's some chatter about the ETH ETF, and I mean with the Bitcoin ETF, it seems like that was all anyone could talk about for, I don't know, like a year or at least 6 months. And it was approved. And I mean, I think a lot of people were fairly convinced it would be approved. And it was. And so I guess I'm curious, you know, with the Ethereum ETF, I do see it trending on Twitter occasionally, but not as much as I saw the one for Bitcoin. I'm curious, you know, should we go into the ETH ETF with the same type of optimism that it will be approved like the Bitcoin one? Or do you think that there's, you know, maybe it'll face more scrutiny than the Bitcoin ETF, and maybe it's not, you know, as sure of a thing? Not to say that it won't ever be approved, but maybe they kick the can down the road. Rob, what do you think about this? I know you were very opinionated about the Bitcoin one, and by the way, I know you thought the Bitcoin would not be approved, but I mean, in your defense, you had been saying that since like 2017. So I mean, like, it took 7 years.
Ben, you are so nice. I appreciate that. But let's call a spade a spade. I was totally wrong about this one. I said that the ETF would not get approved by March. And I said that of course I said that 2 years ago when there was chatter about it, but I was wrong. So I'm not the best person to give opinion on this one. Only I can point to is this. Hester Pierce from the SEC said that because of the Bitcoin spot ETF being approved, they would use that as precedent to approve potential future ETFs, essentially alluding to the Ethereum ETF. So I have nothing on this one. I'll defer to Jessica on what she's got to say.
Jessica, do you have any insight into the likelihood of the Ethereum ETF being approved?
So first of all, I was using the poly market indicator, which was a great indicator for the approval for the spot Bitcoin ETF. And that was around 93% probability. I'm actually going to get you guys to guess. The Ethereum ETF approved by May the 31st. This is a betting on poly market. So far, there's over $1 million worth of bets. Do you guys want to guess the probability of a yes? Do you want to guess the number? I'll let you know if you're close.
I'm going to say 68%.
I'll say 45%.
Ben, 43% probability of a yes. So there's a few things. First of all, if I look back to the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF, there was Hester Pierce came out the day of the approvals and was really outspoken about the kind of discontent with the SEC, saying like she doesn't know why it took them this long. This is not the job of the SEC. They've missed out on generations of product innovators within the space. It was unnecessary, so on and so forth. So I think that has left quite a sour taste in the mouth and will hopefully get things moving a little bit faster than the 10 years since the Winklevoss twins sent the approval for the first spot Bitcoin ETF. There is still the question mark over Ethereum as a security, if that's going to slow down the approval of a spot Ethereum ETF, if that's going to step in the way at all. But I think if we go back to the first question you asked, Ben, which is to do with the appetite of inflows that we've seen from the ETF issuers currently and the appetite from the likes of BlackRock, what we're seeing from clients, there's huge appetite for kind of Bitcoin in a wrapper, which is institutional investor friendly. And that'll be the same for Ethereum. So if we look at the ETF providers that are desperate to get a spot Ethereum ETF on the market, is the SEC going to be able to go up against them? And are they going to be willing to put down the time and effort to, I think the first final deadline is the 23rd or 24th of May for the spot Ethereum ETF. So if that does get declined and they do have to go and move forward and go into court for this, are they going to be able to challenge the likes of 6 money-hungry asset managers that are looking to get a piece of the pie? JP Morgan's also said 50% likelihood by the end of this year. So I think it's kind of anyone's guess, and it will depend a little bit on the regulatory stance of the SEC when it comes to the security question mark. But I'm not underestimating the power of BlackRock in this one and their appetite based on the positive inflows that they've seen for Bitcoin so far.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it should eventually be approved, but I sort of sense that it's not as much of a sure thing as the one for Bitcoin. Because I feel like for Bitcoin, it was just like it's clearly a commodity, right? Like there's no standing for it to be a security. With Ethereum, I mean, I still think it probably should be a commodity, but what I think and what the SEC thinks are two very different things. So
yeah.
I guess we'll see.
And we haven't seen so much about it on social media yet, because I also think the likes of Eric Balchunas and James Seyfarth, the Bloomberg ETF analysts, they're also still so busy monitoring the inflows of spot Bitcoin ETFs that is just still taking up a lot of the narrative that we are seeing now. This is a bigger piece of the pie. It's more juicy. Everyone wants to talk about it. Whereas 6 months ago, it was quite a quiet news few months, and the spot ETFs for Bitcoin were the main thing that we could focus on and look at. So now there's a few more narratives that people can focus on. So hopefully, it just quietly creeps up on us and we get some good news in May.
Yeah, hopefully. I want to pick your guys' brains about some of the new projects in the crypto space. I mean, I know you guys are talking about some of that stuff in the Coin Bureau Club. Rob, you talk about I think you talk about like basically every single day on your channel. So I'd like to give you guys, the chance to talk about some of your favorite projects in the space. What are some things that have caught your eye recently? I know my audience would love to hear, more information about that side of the market. So, Rob, what do you got?
Well, for this one, like if we're talking about new stuff, I always thought the narrative was, moving into 2024, 25 was going to be, threefold, which would be Web3 gaming, AI, and DEXs. And then, of course, the fourth one, I see it as DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure networks, right? So when I take a look at that, I've seen that like on, so like one would be like Helium. I know some people love Solana, some people despise Solana, but you can't discount the fact that Helium actually has a working product right now. You can pay $20, you get unlimited talks, text, and data here in the States. I don't know if it's global or not, but it looks like a pretty good play. And then if we're talking about telecommunications, I'm really, we've been talking about this for a while, but as far as like a DePIN play, it's called World Mobile, and it's built on Cardano. And they have another one, which is going to be like a piggyback called Minutes, which essentially is, it's a way to use applications in your phone, cut out the middleman to make calls globally, and then be able to shift everything through, and then you get a piece of that action instead of having to go through a tertiary method or a third person. It's going to be you essentially getting revenue from calls globally. So stuff like that. And then also for like the AI plays, hopefully like Hypercycle does pretty well. It's one of the things that I've gotten into recently. But it makes sense. I mean, if we're talking about AI, to build warehouses and get computers and nodes and actually the chips to actually run that and get that processing power up to speed, how difficult is that? Well, just use gamers rigs, because they essentially have a supercomputer right there, and you can use something like a Hypercycle, be a node, and go from there. But again, all this stuff that I just talked about, like if you take a look at most of the .com era and how well they did, 99% are dead. So again, make sure that you do as much research as you possibly can, because a lot of these things will go up, but they will go down. And that's my little warning for everybody.
Gravity has a way of pulling things back down to Earth eventually, right?
True.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, if you guys have any questions for either Rob or Jessica, leave them in the chat below so that we can get to those after Jessica answers. Jessica, do you have any specific projects that you are finding interesting right now?
Yes, I do. First of all, have to agree with Rob with World Mobile there as well. So I think I first interviewed Mickey in 2019. The utility they've been rolling out is kind of DePIN, physical infrastructure, decentralized. But before DePIN was really a narrative that even had a name, I guess. And the utility that they have and the examples already as real world use cases are really impressive. So for people that are not familiar with World Mobile, I absolutely recommend them to go and check them out. It's pretty inspiring, actually. When it comes to similar DePIN narratives that are maybe a little bit newer and ones that I'm keeping an eye on and have on my watch list, there are two within the Solana ecosystem. So one is Hive Mapper, which is a Google streetcar alternative, and that incentivizes people to sync up their dash cam. They can earn rewards and earn tokens, and then the benefits is it has more kind of upkept relevant data than a Google streetcar view, because there's more people on the network contributing, and that has the ticker Honey. And then also Teleport is one that I'm watching as well. So that is a ride sharing app on Solana, and it raised $9 million in seed funding. So the ticker is TRIP, and designed for ride sharing for various economies. The seed round was pretty impressive. They had people from Uber representing. No crypto is required for onboarding as well, which is a really big one, I think, for the bringing in the next wave of people that don't really know they're using crypto, but they're getting a faster, cheaper service, and they're getting incentivized with rewards. I think that's going to be the next thing that brings on a new batch of retail users. So there are two within the Solana ecosystem that I'm keeping an eye out for. And there's also one project called Babylon, which is on the Cosmos ecosystem. And this is undergoing its testnet on the 26th of February. And it is BTC holders earning yield by offering non-custodial staking of Bitcoin onto Cosmos. So that's like a pretty interesting ecosystem they're working on. VanEck had written out their top 15 crypto narratives for 2024, and they'd given Babylon a shout out. Myself and some of the Coinbureau team actually went to go meet some of the founding team for Babylon last week. They're here in Dubai, and it just seems pretty impressive. Again, it's kind of making Bitcoin a little bit more accessible and incentivizing on different subchains and nets. And Babylon, they'd raised quite a significant significant amount from the likes of Polygon Capital as well. So that's also one that I'm keeping an eye out for.
Hey Jess, real quick, sorry Ben. When all these products that you talked about, did you guys talk about it on the main channel, some of them or all of them, or is that with Coin Bureau Club?
So this is on Coin Bureau Club. Thank you for asking, by the way. So we have the Coin Bureau Club Discord. So that is behind a kind of, the Coin Bureau Club is where Guy and the rest of the research team will review specific tokens and projects. Anyone who is a member of the club can vote on which altcoins they would like to review. And then our team will do a deep dive and look into those for you. And also we have kind of an open Q&A where you can interact with myself and the team. We also have all of our portfolios open as well, including our watch list. So you can see what kind of projects we're looking out for. Yeah. And also which kind of ones we're flagging as people we might have met, conversations we might have heard. And it's pretty insightful. You get a glimpse into our brains. Sometimes the guys will share stuff in the club before they even share us at our desk. So it's alpha off the press.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm doing this video, which is all my top tools that I use. And I mean, the ones that I can legally use, like Ben's website, which I steal from constantly. But you guys gave me access to Coin Bureau Club, and I was doing this review, and I was like, I wonder how they did the last set of videos that you guys did. If Benny just throw this up, and everybody can troubleshoot me. They can figure this out. Take a look at all these projects right now: Deso, Metis, Rollbit, Relio, Claros, and Metal Blockchain. Never heard of them in my life, right? I'm sure people right now are like, what the heck is that? They were done in October 2023, also in November, and then the latest one was, November 2023. Just take a look at the price appreciation from what they reviewed to today, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. So I'll be doing a video at some point when I get enough time to do it. So you guys are doing great work. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll pass that on to the rest of the research team as well, because they are relentless with scrolling through kind of topics and deep diving into these tokens. And it's great, the feedback that we've had so far.
Yeah, it looks really great. And I mean, thanks for sharing all the different views you guys had on all these different altcoins. I think the audience is excited to hear all of that. I will say, all right, let's get to some questions, because we're actually a little bit early today. We've gotten through a lot of these questions a lot quicker. I actually saw a really interesting question. Satoshi is finally released from solitary confinement after years. How do they react? What has become of their creation? How does the market react? Either of you want to take that?
Jess, go ahead. You're the...
Oh, this is a good question. Well, so first of all, I think Satoshi, he, she, whoever, I think they would be a little bit pissed at the institutions getting involved.
Yeah.
So I think they would kind of come up and maybe with their magic to democratize, maybe they would have a sit-down meeting, a one-on-one with Michael Saylor, and be like, dude, you have got almost 1% of circulating supply of BTC at this point with MicroStrategy. Let's see if we can negotiate a way for you to democratize that a little bit and give it out to the people, share it, and become more of a Bitcoin Jesus. I think that would be Satoshi's mission if Satoshi was to come back.
I think, yeah, great. Oh, Jess, you're going to get some hate for that one, but it's true, because I'm sure if he came back, he would probably say, did anybody read these 9 pages I put out? It's very simple. It's very short. And I'm pretty sure I put in there peer-to-peer transactions. What does that not make sense? What are you guys talking about? And of course, or maybe that's how I see it. But maybe he comes back and is like, oh, you guys did some pretty good stuff, but it looks like there's why are all these ETFs gobbling it up, and the institutions which we're kind of fighting against, and here we are. But numbers go up, I guess. I don't know if he would say that, or if he'd be like what Jessica just said. I'm on the train that he would probably be not too happy.
And I think probably
go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I was gonna. You can finish your thought process, and then I'll go to another question.
I was just gonna say he's probably also wondering, if he came to Dubai, why on earth there is orange Lamborghinis with Bitcoin logos painted all over them. That definitely was not in the in the white paper anywhere.
When Lambo, I think, was in a hashtag somewhere.
I always thought it was funny how, like, the people that are, quote unquote, in it for the tech have been the people pumping the ETF stuff more than anyone else. Like, and I think Satoshi, if you looked at the whole ETF stuff, it's like, wait, that's not why Bitcoin was created, not so that the institutions could hold your keys. It's kind of the opposite. So I think it kind of it goes to show that people like to say they're in it for the tech, but most of them are in it for the price to go up. And I think that's pretty apparent at this point, if it wasn't already apparent before. So, I think you're right, Rob. I mean, I think the ETF stuff would maybe have him raising an eyebrow to some degree. Let's keep going.
Or maybe he loves it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess we'll never know. But when he's released from solitary confinement, he can tell us, I guess.
I know.
Let's see. I'm trying to find some other good questions here.
I just wonder if he's already out there and he's already like, ugh, I don't want to deal with this anymore. This is a great project. Maybe it's Elon Musk and he's like, I got a Cybertruck to make. I don't have time for this.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but I guess both yesterday or today, Japan and the UK just had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. And so by the technical definition, that is a recession in those countries. At the same time, the stock markets in Japan, it's nearing the prior highs from like 20 years ago. The stock market in Germany is at all-time highs, and I don't know exactly where the one in the UK is, but what do you guys think? I mean, there have been periods in the past where some countries had. Have you ever heard the saying like when the U.S. catches a cold, the rest of the world catches like the flu or something?
Right.
There was an example previously where this sort of stuff happened, and then the U.S. sort of skirted a recession. I think that was back in like 2015, 2016, where some other countries were unable to avoid it. So I guess the question here is, do you think that those are a precursor to what could theoretically happen in the U.S. economy?
There was 2 things. I know that either Guy or Jessica, you did a whole piece on bail-ins and bailouts for central bankers globally. And it was interesting because when you take a look at it, you're like, oh, they're going to take money from us and they're going to bail in themselves. They're going to turn the printer on a quantitative easing. There was a piece I covered a couple of days ago where it was a goofy price prediction title, but it had some merit. And because I don't like using price predictions because it screws everything up and people they get overzealous. But it was one of the guys who actually called the last cycle. He said, no, Bitcoin will be between 50 and 100,000. And this is the data. And he's been right so far. And he's been on some reasonable counsels. Now he's saying 200,000 to 600,000. The reason is because of the massive amount of bailouts and bail-ins and quantitative easing, because there's so much debt around in the world. The only way to service the interest rate on that debt is to fire up the printers. And for that to happen, then of course everything inflates. He goes, so as time goes on, like for these things that are happening, he pretty much was talking about this is going to be the norm. They're going to bail things out. There are going to be a lot of funds out there. I mean, massive debt, quantitative easing, and then of course the price of Bitcoin, and everything goes up. And that's, I think, is the most scary thing that we could have. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it kind of is like, it's just weird because I just talked about this 2 days ago.
Well, it's kind of interesting because you have to think about they'll turn the money printer on at some point. I think they're just trying to hold off as long as they can, so to avoid another wave of inflation, which would be awful. I don't think anyone wants that. Actually, someone just asked, what do you guys think of the latest CPI data? Any thoughts on it? I mean, I think it was a little stickier than what a lot of people were hoping for. I think still technically it came down from the month before, but it was higher than what people were expecting.
Mm-hmm. And it did have a slight impact on BTC price when the data initially came out. So I picked Arthur Hayes' brains on this. The interview will be coming live on Saturday, and he did give his outlook on the US economy and his impressions of when we are going to see possibly a retracement, or even in some words, a kind of a market crash or recession like environment from the US and also from Japan, and then how that will impact crypto. So I won't give too much away, but that's coming soon.
I look forward to that. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting thing. I mean, I think that the Fed is, I think that everyone wants rate cuts. I think the market is hungry for rate cuts, and the CPI data has just basically delayed those rate cuts, more than likely. So, I mean, the longer they go, the more likely they are to have a negative impact. But we'll see if they can cut before something like that happens.
As long as we don't have a repeat of Volcker or Burns back in the 70s and, inflation quadruples, then I think we'll be okay. I don't know about a soft landing, but we'll see. Hey Ben, I didn't watch it the whole way through, but was your last Bitcoin dominance video an hour and a half?
I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun. I don't really know how much.
Oh man. Dominance, bearish or bullish? This is your you and Jeff can answer this one.
You guys are the guests. They already know my view. They already know my answer.
I don't even know I don't even know what it is.
I don't know what it is. Ben, because I know we're coming on the stream with you, so I'm like, Ben's got this one. He's got it covered.
I mean, like, I think Bitcoin dominance is bullish. Surprise, surprise. My guess is that, I mean, actually the last couple of days, altcoins have been keeping pace with Bitcoin. Like, dominance has kind of stalled out here at 54%, but I think it will break above 54. I think after it can clear that 54 milestone and get some weekly closes, I think the highest weekly close for Bitcoin dominance, at least this cycle, was about 54.35% or so. Is that right? Yeah, 54.35%. So I think it needs to clear that. And then it should get another push higher. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably going to go, first to 56%, and then theoretically all the way up to the elusive 60% level, which is where I think it could actually top out at around 60% dominance. That's my view, and that's kind of why. I mean, I put out a tweet about this earlier or yesterday. I was like, everyone thinks I hate altcoins because of my Bitcoin dominance views, but it's just like, I mean, for me, in prior cycles, I would already be, full degen, right, into all these altcoins, right? But I think as like cycles go on, like the longer you're here, the more you just sort of focus on the things that stand the test of time, right? And like we were talking about it earlier, right? Like look at, EOS, right? I mean, a few years ago, it was all the hype, and now it's down almost 99. It's down 99.4% against Bitcoin, right? You could have lost a lot of money if you converted a lot of your Bitcoin to EOS back then. I mean, and by a lot, I mean 99.4% of your Satoshi value. So yeah, I mean, like I think that Bitcoin can lift the altcoin market for sure. It's just that I think Bitcoin will outperform the collective altcoin market. But hey, there's always even when dominance goes up, there's always some altcoins that outperformed. And I mean, I think you guys probably talked about some of them earlier that have been outperforming Bitcoin for the last few months. But that's always the case, right? There's always some that do, and usually the ones that do are the newer coins, right? The ones that don't have as much baggage from the prior cycle, right? Because they don't have all like the bag holders all the way down, so there's more like, there's not as much overhead for them to go up. I think the problem with some of the other coins is that while some of them can certainly reach new all-time highs eventually, you just have a ton of people that might sell at various resistance levels because they bought in on the way down. Sort of my view.
Yeah. And then, like just to piggyback off that, like people talk about, well, this project has, real utility and it's doing great and it's going to take over. And then like the example me and Jess just both gave was helium. If you take a look back to what helium's price was in 2021 when it did nothing, it was over $50, and now it just hit 10, somewhere around there. And it actually has a working product. And it's the same thing. Like I always give an example of like Illuvium. It's a Web3 game. Nothing back in 2021, over $1,000, and now here we're at 100. So, like I think that a lot of this, it's honestly just speculation and hype, and you really have to take a look at what is going to be around here for the long haul. as best you can.
Yeah. There are some people that are asking about, I've seen it a few times. Let me just grab one of the most recent ones that have asked this question. If I can find it. Basically, the question is, do you think we could have a left translated cycle top? I think what they're saying, someone else asked it in a way that it doesn't require us to, like the, so like this one, like the, is it showing? I don't know. It's not showing up. But basically, the idea is, it's rallying a lot at normally this time of the, like normally at this, there it is, right? Like, do you think that we could have an earlier top, or do you think the traditional 4-year cycle will hold, where you get a peak late 2025, right? So we had like a peak late 2021, we had a peak late 2017, we had a peak late 2013. So then, will there be another peak late 2025, or will a top potentially come early? What do you guys think?
I would say it is a little bit kind of unnerving. First of all, with crypto, you have to expect the unexpected. There is no kind of copy and paste with each 4-year cycle. There's no cookie cutter approach. Also, this year is different because we have seen the inflows from the institutions that has started to come in, and that has changed the market dynamic a little bit. So typically, you wouldn't see price movements in the build up to the halving like what we've seen in these few months. So this is something which is slightly giving a different outlook for the halving and in the build up for that. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a retracement at some point in the next kind of 6 to 12 months, slightly or a correction based on what we've seen. But I would say taking profits and keeping an eye and not expecting a certain date in mind, just based on the market conditions that we have seen, is pretty important for this bull cycle. So you're not left holding your bags in 2025 and you've kind of missed the boat of taking some decent profits.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we are definitely ahead of like where we were in prior cycles at the same time. 2 of the prior cycles were sort of double peak cycles, right? Like 2021 was a double peak cycle, but the peaks were the same. 2013 was a double peak cycle, but the second peak was higher than the first peak. So I almost wonder if something like that could happen again, where you get sort of your first peak, around the halving and all that stuff, and you cool off for a little bit, and then you get another peak, I don't know, out in 2025. But I really don't know. I mean, when the market's like this, it's really dangerous to try to predict, exactly where it's going to top out, because Bitcoin often shows that these rallies can last longer than most people think they can. And then, just when we think it can never go down again, it does.
Yeah. I think, it's what's funny is, like, I remember back in 2021 around March or April, you put out a video. It was a Pi cycle top video. And he said, hey, look, here's a Pi cycle top, 350-day moving average times 2, and it crosses over against the 111-day moving average. And he said, usually when this happens, we top out. I think the price was like 58,000 around there, something around there. And then we went up to 63, and then we took a dip, and then we came back up to 67, and that was it. I think if people would have just said, all right, well, this is a pretty good number, 58,000. Didn't hit the top, but you did a lot better than, wait until 15,000 when it crashed again. So, but just to reiterate, I think that because we're ahead of schedule, we're going to see a pretty massive bull run. I'm very bullish, but I can't tell the time frames. So just take profits along the way if you're so inclined, or diamond hands it. It's up to you. Not a financial advisor.
It's up to you guys. And who remembers 2017 as well, where everyone was like keeping their fingers crossed that Bitcoin would go to $10,000 a Bitcoin, and then it skyrocketed past to 17. Everyone thought 20 was a possibility, and then alas, it was all gone. So you have to take profits along the way.
Yeah, wasn't it? Who was it? Was it a futures ETF was approved by the CBOE?
Yeah.
And then, of course, everybody's like, this is fantastic. This is going to be the biggest thing of all time. And then what happened? That was the beginning of the end for that cycle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good times. Good times.
The good old times, guys.
Yeah. 2017 was crazy because, I remember the 10K target, and a lot of people thought that was the top, and then it doubled from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. In such a short time frame as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And do you remember Litecoin?
Huh?
Oh yeah,
Litecoin in 2017 was like
Oof.
exponential games. That was wild.
You know who was the best trader of that cycle? Charlie Lee.
yeah, he sold. yeah,
He
sold like
sold
at the top.
at the top. I gotta him and Nancy Pelosi. I need to take their trading class because whatever they're doing right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys
TA with Nancy Pelosi.
have you guys heard this example before?
No. This
No.
ought to
It's
be
not
good.
my example. It's Warren Buffett's example. It's not mine.
Okay.
It's basically you know, everyone when you're in, you know, a parabolic rally, right? Like everyone's at a party, and when the clock strikes midnight, and this is Warren Buffett's example, when the clock strikes midnight at the party, everyone who's still at the party will turn into a pumpkin or a
Yeah.
mouse. I can't remember what it. I think it was like maybe both. Let's just say a pumpkin, right? At midnight, everyone's going to turn into a pumpkin who's still at the party. So it's simple, right? You just have to leave the party before you turn into a pumpkin, right? Before it's midnight, right? That's the idea, right? You leave the party before it's midnight, and you don't turn into a pumpkin. And so everyone is obviously planning on leaving the party before midnight. The problem is there's no clock on the wall, so
Right.
we don't actually know what time it is, right? Like, you know, maybe you think it's like, you know, 1 p.m., but it's actually 11 p.m., right? And so, you know, you end up partying too long, and then you end up getting turned into a pumpkin. So that's why you know, you really should echo, or I would echo what Rob said. And Jessica, I mean, like, it's nothing wrong with taking profits along the way, and also recognizing that, hey, the market can go up far higher than a lot of people will predict, and then it can drop a lot more than people will often predict. But yeah, I mean, pretty interesting times right now for sure. I mean, Bitcoin is actually up. I mean, it almost just hit 53K.
We did it. Congratulations. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, the one last question. I've seen it come up a couple of times. People are talking about, like, do you have, like, so normally what people do is after Bitcoin hits highs, they will then convert Bitcoin into altcoins. And so some people are saying, well, you know, because a lot of the money is going into spot ETFs and holding Bitcoin there, could that potentially break the trend of sort of a shift from Bitcoin into the altcoin market? Like, you know, if you're buying a spot ETF for Bitcoin, you can't just cash that out and go buy a spot ETF for, you know, a random altcoin, right? You actually have to go to to an exchange and buy it. Any takers?
Rob, do you want to start with this one, or do you want me to? I'll jump on in. So again, I think it goes back. I do think this year could be different. So we have already seen altcoins that have hit new all-time highs. We started to see that around October. We saw huge price gains with the likes of Solana. We had all-time highs with the likes of Injective in December time. And now moving into this cycle where Bitcoin is starting to lead the pack on price gains, we are starting to see a little bit more of a level playing field. But I think it will depend on your rotation appetite if you look at your individual kind of portfolio and how much you are looking to reallocate. I personally have around 60% in Bitcoin and then the rest in Ethereum and other alternative coins. And for me, that's good. I'm not going to be moving any of my Bitcoin at any other point in the cycle into alternative coins. I don't want to miss the boat with Bitcoin and end up flirting between the two and actually missing some pretty significant percentage gains along the way.
Yeah, I mean, 60% is I mean, that's a good, I think that's a decent amount. I'm higher just because I'm more, you know, because of the Bitcoin dominance fees. But I think that even if you guys are like super, you know, for the audience, like, you know, like speculating in the altcoin market, it's still generally not a bad idea to have some Bitcoin, because it will, like, that's the one that sticks around from one cycle to another. Altcoins sort of come and go. So I think it's just good practice to have, you know, some form of a Bitcoin position rather than just nothing in Bitcoin and everything in sort of more speculative stuff. But maybe that's just me. But Rob, did you want to take that question up too?
No, I mean, same thing. Real quick is that you know, rotating into altcoins is of course riskier, but the rewards are higher. So just be aware of that situation. And then of course, when we talk about taking profits, like, I know that this is probably not the ideal time because of course we're going to go up. But when I talk about taking profits, just at some point, we all know how to buy. We all know how to DCA. We're all fantastic experts at that. But I think we all suck at taking profits. I could be wrong, but I'm not the greatest. So as time goes on, take a little profits along the way, so you know, like, oh, that's what it feels like, and maybe it does go do a 20x. At least I have something in the bank. But as time goes on, I think it'll help out, especially as we get into the mania that is the blow off top bull run, and that's coming. And it could be 12 months, it could be 18 months, but it's coming, and you have to be prepared for that.
Well, it's the top of the hour, so why don't we wrap it up there? Guys, if you're not subscribed to Jessica or Rob, make sure you do so. Links to their YouTube channels are in the description below. And next week, I guess we will be on Rob's channel. Right, Rob?
Hey, all right. Yep, sounds good.
So we'll see you guys next week on Rob's channel.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.